Ray Doss stood at the edge of the pickup line, watching his daughter Ren walk toward him across the frozen blacktop in nothing but her socks. Before he could ask, Miss Holloway, Ren's second-grade teacher, was already crossing the yard toward him, her voice sharp enough to carry, sharp enough that 3 other parents nearby stopped their own conversations to listen. "Mr. Doss," she said, "why does your daughter have no shoes? It's 34 degrees out here." Ray felt every eye in the pickup line land on him at once. "I put her shoes on this morning myself," he said quietly. "Miss Holloway." "Well, she doesn't have them now," the teacher said, arms crossed. "I need to understand what's happening at home because this isn't the first time I've noticed something off with this child." Ray looked down at Ren, who was watching the exchange with wide, uncertain eyes, one sock already soaked through from the frost on the ground. He had no idea yet what she was about to tell him, or that in the next 5 minutes, an entire parking lot full of strangers was going to go completely silent. If you believe the people quickest to judge are usually the ones who have seen the least, stay with me, because tonight's about to prove that. Subscribe now so you don't miss where this goes. Ray was 31, a single father for 3 years, since his wife Callie died of an aggressive cancer that took her faster than either of them had time to properly prepare for. He worked at a hardware store, steady but modest hours, and had built his entire routine around one unbending rule. Ren came first, every single time, no exceptions. Callie had believed something specific, something she'd said to Ray more than once in the last year of her life, usually while pressing a few dollars into a stranger's hand or leaving her own coat on a shelter donation bin. You don't wait until you have enough to be generous. You find something to give, even when it costs you something real. Ray had carried that sentence with him every day since she died, mostly by trying to live it in small, ordinary ways Ren could see. He didn't know, walking her to school that frozen morning, that she'd absorbed the lesson more completely than he realized. Earlier that morning, in the coat room before first bell, Ren had noticed a boy named Jonah crouched by the radiator, his sneakers soaked through, one sole flapping loose at the toe, held together with a strip of duct tape that had long since stopped working. His socks, what was left of them, were visibly wet. "Your shoes are broken," Ren said, matter-of-fact, the way 7-year-olds state things. Jonah shrugged, embarrassed. "My mom's getting me new ones." Soon, Ren looked down at her own shoes, sturdy, warm, bought 2 months earlier. Then she looked at Jonah's feet again. She didn't ask permission. She didn't think it through the way an adult might, weighing consequences, considering what her father would say. She simply sat down on the bench, pulled off her own shoes, and held them out. "Here," she said, "trade me." Jonah stared at her. "I can't take your shoes." "You can give them back when your new ones come," Ren said, already pulling her socks tighter around her feet. "I'll be okay, I've got thick socks." Remember the socks. That's the only thing keeping her feet warm right now, and she chose it anyway. Jonah wore Ren's shoes for the rest of the day. Ren wore her socks alone, cold, quiet about it, not mentioning it to a single teacher. Not until Miss Holloway happened to notice at pickup and drew her own fast conclusion in front of a parking lot full of parents. "I asked you a question, Mr. Doss," Miss Holloway said again. "Where are her shoes?" Ray crouched down to Ren's level. "Bug, where are your shoes?" Ren's voice was small, uncertain now that adults were involved and voices had gotten sharp. "I gave them to Jonah. His were broken. I told him he could keep them until his mom gets him new ones." The parking lot went quiet in the particular way a crowd goes quiet when it realizes it's about to witness something it didn't expect. Miss Holloway's expression faltered just slightly. "She gave away her shoes to a classmate?" "Yes, ma'am," Ren said, looking up at her without flinching. "His feet were wet. Mine weren't yet." Ray stood up slowly, and when he spoke, his voice wasn't raised, wasn't defensive. It was simply steady, the voice of a man who had rehearsed this exact kind of moment in his head many times since Callie died, without ever expecting to need it in a school parking lot. "Miss Holloway," he said, "I put shoes on my daughter's feet myself this morning. What she chose to do with them once she got to school was her own decision, and it was a decision I'm proud of, not one I'm going to apologize for. Mr. Doss, a child walking around in wet socks in freezing weather is a real concern." "I understand that," Ray said, "and I don't disagree that it needs attention, hers and Jonah's both. But before you assume neglect, I need you to understand what actually happened here. My daughter noticed another child in pain and gave up something warm of her own to fix it, without being asked, without expecting anything back. That's not a failure of parenting. If anything, it's the only thing I've done right since her mother died that I'm completely certain of." The parking lot had gone entirely silent now. A few parents exchanged glances. One mother nearby pressed a hand briefly against her chest. Miss Halloway looked down at Wren, then at Ray, some of the sharpness in her expression finally giving way to something closer to embarrassment. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "I jumped to a conclusion I shouldn't have." "You were trying to protect a kid," Ray said. "I can't be angry at anyone for that, even when they get it wrong. Just get it wrong a little more carefully next time." Before we go any further, it's worth understanding what Ray meant when he said this was the only thing he was completely certain he'd done right, because the answer goes back to a conversation with Callie 8 months before she died. She'd been too sick by then for long conversations, most days limited to short exchanges between rest and medication. But one evening, watching Wren color quietly on the hospital room floor, Callie had pulled Ray close and said the thing she needed him to understand before she couldn't say anything else. "I'm not scared of dying," she'd said. "I'm scared she'll grow up hard. Scared this house is going to get so tired and so sad that she forgets how to notice other people's pain because she'll be too busy surviving her own. Promise me you won't let that happen. Promise me she stays soft in the ways that matter, even after this." Ray had promised, not knowing exactly how he'd keep that promise, only that he would try every day in whatever small way he could manage. Every time Wren noticed someone struggling, every time she offered her lunch to a classmate who'd forgotten theirs, every time she'd asked Ray why some people didn't have coats in winter, Ray had felt quietly like he was keeping that promise one small moment at a time. Today, in a cold coat room, without anyone teaching her to do it in that exact instant, Wren had proven the promise had taken. That afternoon, Ray drove Wren, still in her socks, straight to the shoe store near their apartment. "Am I in trouble?" Wren asked in the car, quieter than usual. "No, Bug," Ray said. "You're not in trouble. You did something your mom would have been really proud of." At the store, Ray let Wren pick out a new pair for herself, the exact ones she'd been asking about for weeks, purple with a small cartoon fox stitched on the side, the kind she'd pointed at every single time they passed this store and never once actually asked to buy, because she already understood, even at 7, that some months the answer to things like that was simply no. "Really?" she asked, holding the box like it might disappear. "Really," Ray said. "You earned something good today. Doesn't mean giving away kindness earns you a reward every time, but today I want you to have both. The shoes and the knowing you did something right." Then before they left the store, Ray picked out a second pair, sturdy, warm, sized for a boy about Wren's age, and asked the cashier to box them separately. "Those for Jonah?" Wren asked. "Those are for Jonah," Ray said. "You started something good today. I just want to help you finish it properly." The next morning, Ray and Wren stopped by Jonah's classroom before the bell, and Wren handed him the box herself, a little shy about it now that it wasn't a spontaneous coachroom decision, but a deliberate, planned gift. "You didn't have to," Jonah said, looking down at the shoes. "I know," Wren said. "That's kind of the point." Miss Halloway, watching from her desk, said nothing, but something in her face had softened considerably since the parking lot the day before. A year later, Wren stood in front of her third-grade class for an assignment about a time she'd helped someone. "I gave a boy my shoes once because his were broken and wet," she read from a piece of notebook paper, her handwriting still careful and large. "My teacher thought my dad was doing something wrong, but my dad told her the truth, and everyone in the parking lot got really quiet. Then he bought me new shoes and bought Jonah some too. He said I started something good and he just wanted to help me finish it. I think that's what my mom would have wanted, even though I don't remember her that well. My dad remembers for both of us." She looked up from the paper. "I think kindness works like that. Sometimes you start it and someone else helps you carry it the rest of the way." Some promises get kept in ways nobody expects, in a cold coat room, in a parking lot gone quiet, in a shoebox handed over before the morning bell. Wren never knew she was keeping a promise her father made in a hospital room 8 months before she could understand what promises were. She just knew someone's feet were cold, and she had something warm to give. If this one reached you, tell us in the comments about a child who taught you something about kindness you didn't expect to learn. Welcome to Heartverse. We're glad you're here.